Hey guys, and welcome to another brand new video. In this video, we actually have some pretty crazy news going on over here that actually came out too when it came to these really big court documents. Now, as you guys do or do not know, there's been a lot of really big drama when it comes to the PlayStation and Xbox, and this one is probably one of the more crazy ones, at least in my honest opinion. Now, this is also going to be regards now to the PlayStation itself, PlayStation dev consoles, Minecraft, funny enough, and Xbox, all with this really big drama feud going on right now, and it does kind of seem like this keeps on going more and more and more. There's even more big court stuff that happened as of today too as well, so I'll give us another update too as well in a few hours, so be on the lookout for that. So make sure you guys are subscribed with the notifications on. There's been a lot of good juicy details coming on out as well. Make sure you guys are checking out the Twitter and Twitch stream down below. Leave your thoughts and comments as well, and check out the Amazon, and also leave a like if you guys want to. Let's go dive on into the video itself. So, very first and foremost, we've been covering up this really big Xbox versus FTC court case, which has been kind of going a little bit on the crazier side. But there's also been a lot of big stuff when it comes to like Jim Ryan, the PlayStation CEO, kind of giving out a lot of public speaks and talks, and basically recorded like a video to go and play in front of the entire courts. And just a lot of really big drama when it came to that. But one of the bigger things is that Microsoft was pretty much going and calling out PlayStation for their own somewhat incompetence, mainly for them kind of being somewhat petty and somewhat meh when it comes to them kind of developing up new games and game stuff on their systems. Let's go talk about this, where, if you guys do or do not know, Microsoft does own Minecraft. Some people actually, funny enough, don't even know that. But one of the bigger things is that Minecraft has been a prior generation game, and obviously you'd probably assume there'd be some updates over time. This is where kind of actually a PlayStation went a little bit on the pettier side over here, where Minecraft itself doesn't even have a native PlayStation 5 version, because Sony was actually reluctant to even send Microsoft the actual PlayStation 5 Developer Kit. Now, in case you guys do or do not know, when it comes to like game studios and consoles, typically like they will have more exclusive and like more fine-tuned things like a PlayStation 5 console that's purely for developers, which basically allows them to go and do like bug fixes, do more proper testings, edit stuff on the console itself, and basically just like essentially a higher end console that's fine-tuned for people who are making games to be able to go and test and utilize and use the files and basically just everything you need to go do to test a game and make sure a game runs well. And well, when it comes to this stuff, there's actually a lot of big drama where Sony never even went and sent these actual kits themselves to Microsoft for them to go and, well, make any games. It's kind of like one of those kind of weird petty things, for at least on the PlayStation side, but it does kind of make a little bit of sense, but at the same time, not so really. So one of the bigger things out here on the PlayStation side is that they just did not want, but basically Microsoft, to have access to, number one, their developer controls. So like all these internal things and what they do for testing and all these third-party people and what they even send over to the PlayStation studios. They did not want these consoles to physically be on hand at Microsoft, whether they could try to go and like maybe reverse engineer it. Maybe they go and just use it and they realize something that they could use on their own consoles, or whatever kind of drama all in between of that. That's kind of like something to note, but it's one of those bigger deals. And well, that's kind of a crazy thing. They just did not want to go and send it to them at all. Now, on the same side, too, I can understand why Sony wouldn't want to do that, because like I said, they don't want to give out maybe internal details or give Xbox ideas, but then at the same time, that also went and kind of somewhat harmed up the PlayStation user base, and it also kind of makes things a lot harder for Microsoft that is seemingly willing to help out and like develop these games that they own to go make them run better on, say, the PlayStation, or as well to go and migrate those to the PlayStation 5 version 2. So there's a lot of intriguing stuff for that. So as they're saying, I think Sony could have sent their kits to Microsoft just as easy as any other publisher, said Xbox boss Phil Spencer. So even Phil Spencer himself's kind of like, hey, yo, bros, like, if you would have just sent it to us, like, we probably wouldn't have done anything that schemy. Although, don't forget, there's been a lot of also controversy of Xbox scheming stuff on the side and being low-key about all these things, too, as well, which, in all honesty, it's not the coolest stuff to go and see. They're kind of scheming up the system, so I can maybe see why Sony would be a little bit reluctant, but then at the same time, it kind of seems like consumers are having issues. At the end of the day, the big business is probably fine, but just the consumers who maybe want to have a PlayStation 5 version of Minecraft, or just general updates and all that, they're the ones that are kind of getting screwed over here. So, ever wondered why there's no native PS5 version on Minecraft? Well, no more. So, according to the Xbox boss, Phil Spencer, it's because Sony didn't want Microsoft to have a PlayStation 5 dev kit. Now, I'm trying my best to go think of any other games that actually were Xbox, basically games that are now on PlayStation. In my mind, I can't really think of too many, because the most recent ones, such as Bethesda games, as I have to go and sneeze over here, some of the more like recent things like Bethesda games, they are, well, not ending up on PlayStation. Good examples like Starfield or Redfall, and that things like, say, for Deathloop or any of those other various games like Ghostwire Tokyo, they're actually on PlayStation first and also before Bethesda was bought. Same thing too as well, like Fable, Halo, those are also not on those games, but they did also have a proper deal with Minecraft to maintain that as well. So this is why it's very, very intriguing to go and see, because this is like the first time we've noticed this issue, because there just hasn't like been too many crossover games. I think PlayStation games, you don't really see them on Xbox, so it makes sense of why we don't see those. So basically, dev kits enable developers to create games for new or burgeoning hardware ahead of its release, and are particularly important when testing early or unstable games in development, which is kind of why that's a big deal for that one, because you want to make sure these games are working. You want to make sure if you're testing their bugs, they're not crashing your consoles or whatever it might be, which is kind of a big deal nonetheless. But while Sony was seemingly sending PS5 dev kits to other developers, Spencer revealed that Sony was actually reluctant to share the tech with its competitor, even though Minecraft has long been available on Sony systems, which in my honest opinion, I'm on the middle for that. Mainly in my mind, I'm thinking like, oh, hey, yo, like I said, but at the start of the video, it makes sense. Like Sony doesn't want to give their property out to these folks. On the same part too, Xbox wants to make the game happen, but at the same time, they're kind of indifferent. Like if they don't somehow get the console, that just means there's less work they have to worry about. And they're like, oh, we'll just worry about it later on, or whenever Sony gives it to us, or whatever it might be. They say Sony was reluctant to send us development kits for the PlayStation 5 at the same time. They were sending them to other developers, which put us at a disadvantage relative to other developers, Spencer said, which it does also have a lot of negativity towards Xbox, because it is owned by Minecraft. So in theory, if this is all not public information, people will just be assuming that Minecraft devs are just being lazy, or they'll go and rage on Twitter or Reddit or all these various game forums, and what can they say? Like, oh, Sony hasn't given us the console. They'd be like, well, you can still develop, you can still make stuff, just go and buy your own console at Walmart or stuff like that. So they basically said, I think Sony could have sent the development kits to Microsoft just as easy as they sent to any other publisher. In case you missed it, Microsoft says that if the U.S. Federal Trade Commission gets its way and delays its Activision Blizzard purchase, it may just abandon the deal altogether, which also makes a lot of sense too. We've talked about that, where like if they can have the United States market or even the UK market, what is the point? As concisely summarized by Jordan, Microsoft began defending its Activision deal against the FTC in court earlier on this week, with the goal of convincing a federal judge not to grant the FTC a preliminary injunction that would delay the buyer's closing. Like in the UK's own antitrust authority, which blocked the deal in April, the FTC is concerned about the Microsoft's $70 billion purchase too as well. So it's kind of crazy to go and see that it seemed like PlayStation was being very, very petty with Xbox. They just didn't want to give them the tech. I understand why, as I mentioned throughout this and part two. Like, once again, it kind of leads towards just negativity towards the consumers. I feel bad for the consumers out there that are just trying to go play games and enjoy games, because that's what kind of matters more at the end of the day, rather than all this like kind of leaking of tech. I understand why, and on both sides, but it's kind of just a lame story nonetheless. And we keep on seeing a lot more of the stuff coming out as we keep on watching through these big court hearings that are ongoing. Like I said, there's even one as of today, so we'll have another video on that in the very near future. But some intriguing little side news over here is if you guys kind of care for the Metal Gear Solid. Funny enough, the Metal Gear Solid Master Collection actually will be having some physical editions. I did have a few folks that were curious on the collectors and general editions. Curious on this one, so intriguing to know for this one. So in case you guys are curious on that one, it will be coming out very, very soon. We also have some very intriguing stuff that Stephen King, the man, myth, the legend himself, funny enough, actually gifted Alan Wake's opening quote to Remedy for just $1. Basically saying they just wanted to go and almost do like a homage and kind of give like an honor towards the game itself. Saying I really, really desperately wanted him to start it off. So basically, famed writer Stephen King granted Remedy the rights to use his infamous quote that opens the original Alan Wake for the nominal sum of just $1. It's actually a very, very cool thing, and basically helps out for the legality, because they did technically sell it in terms of contract law. So it's just kind of like, yeah, we'll give you the freebie, it's $1, no problems. So Alan Wake memorably begins with the voiceover from the game's main character quoting King and a description of what the nightmare really means. So the Eurogamer Remedy boss Sam Lake revealed that he had really, really desperately wanted to be able to open the game with a quote from the King himself, whose style matched much of the spooky, supernatural horrors that followed too as well, and Stephen King was on board. So it was really cool. He only had to pay $1 for that too, as well as also really, really nice and just cool. He's done a lot of that stuff, so he's going to be using a lot of cool influences. They basically use this as like a inspiration for the game itself, and that's why it's cool. Stephen King once wrote that nightmares exist outside of logic, and there's little fun to be had in explanations. They're antithetical to the poetry of fear. So it's kind of cool to get to see this. I've also been hearing a lot more news, good news on Alan Wake, saying that the story is going to be #1 on the store, the horror, the style, and the inspiration, the art direction, all that stuff is more on the psychological horror side, which I think is very, very nice, and I cannot wait to play this game. I think the game looks great so far. I think it's coming out later on this year. I'm super hyped up for this one. Let me know your thoughts and comments down below. So leave your thoughts and comments on the PlayStation drama. Make sure you guys are subscribed with the notifications on. We have the Twitter and Twitch written down below. If you guys want to follow the Amazon links, the Twitter, and all that good stuff as well, give me your thoughts and comments down below. I appreciate y'all so much for watching in the first place.